Emergency Management Associates with Ron Tyler. Ron has been a first responder and in the preparedness arena for years. Since the early 1980s, Ron Tyler has been working to make sure people are prepared for whatever comes their way. He assisted his parents doing survival dinners where they went to church. He has lived in earthquake country, where quite a few large earthquakes hit San Diego and the state of California. Ron Tyler started Emergency Management Associates as a way to prepare people for coming emergencies and disasters. He was a first responder and responded to areas to help serve, rescue, and train people. Ron has set up emergency command posts during fire seasons in the mountains of Southern California and in Colorado. Having been a volunteer fireman and then a police officer, Ron knows what needs to be done and has done it. Ron and his crews have saved many people's lives. Ron has spoken to hundreds of community groups, helped organize preparedness fairs where he has lived. Through his travels, Ron has met hundreds of people and is valued in those communities and continues to work and lecture people on the complex work of emergency/disaster preparedness and emergency management. Ron has spent 24 years in law enforcement and has an extensive background in law enforcement and tactics. Ron's career was spent in homicide, traffic accident investigation, weapons and tactics, and personal/executive protection and emergency management. Ron Tyler has been a missionary for his church and is now a gospel doctrine instructor. With these items safely tucked away, you and your family will have an advantage should an emergency or disaster strike. Water, enough for at least 3 days. Food, ready-to-eat canned food, granola bars, dried fruit, peanut butter. Flashlight, with extra batteries. All essential medications and prescriptions. Medical equipment for conditions, extra pair of eyeglasses, extra batteries for hearing aid, etc. First aid kit. Personal care supplies. Emergency contact information. Copies of important documents, photo ID, medical insurance cards, medication lists, insurance policies. Records of personal property and insurance policies. Masks. Change of clothing, jacket, gloves, hat. Blankets. Remember to subscribe, like, share with your family and friends, and thank you for watching.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. Coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We're going to dispense with the national anthem today, only because we have to get hot on what's going on. It's already 6:30 p.m. We wanted to be on the air a half hour ago, but things kept getting in our way to come on the air. Be advised, Hurricane Milton is off the shore of Florida right now. About an hour and a half ago, it was 100 miles off northwest off the shore of Bradenton, Naples, and Tampa Bay, Florida. According to the National Hurricane Center, the 4 p.m. Eastern Time advisory, Hurricane Milton was downgraded from a Category 5 storm to a very major Category 3 hurricane. Hurricane Milton's projected path of a Category 3 storm is very important. I want to show you the cone of uncertainty now. We've shown you the cone of uncertainty many times during the past the last week. Now, darn it, thought I had it right here. I'm going to bring it up right now. The cone of uncertainty is very important because this is where you're going to see the storm come ashore. Let me bring it up real quick here for you. I had it right here, but I don't see it. I want to make sure you see it. Come on, you crazy thing. Okay. As you see on your screen, this is a cone of uncertainty. This was as of 2 p.m. Now it's 6 p.m. The hurricane has probably moved another 50 miles closer to shore. Hurricane Milton is not going to hit the shore as a landfall, meaning the eye of the storm coming ashore, until at least 11 p.m., midnight, maybe a little later Thursday morning. It's not going to do that. Okay? It actually slowed down. As we told you before earlier today, when it was many hundreds of miles offshore still, it was headed for Florida. However, there was a period of time when, as the hurricane drew closer to shore, there was going to be a wind shear. Straight line winds going straight towards the ocean surface. Those straight line wind shear winds would reduce the strength of this hurricane, and it did. Now this is just a very strong Category 3 storm. It's borderline Category 4, but it's a Category 3 storm. The winds are 150 miles an hour. Well, actually, they're not. 125 miles per hour. This afternoon, there's actually been 17 hurricane warnings. Several of the storms, the tornadoes, hit land. One of them was over near Port St. Lucie. Another one was in Tornado Alley. We fully expect to have more tornadoes, but possibly not tonight. The tornadoes, as we've explained them, happen as the outer bands of the hurricane pull into land. The outer bands of the hurricane are spinning counterclockwise like this. As they spin, these outer bands of the hurricane have thunderstorms in them. And those thunderstorms drop tornadoes. Now, as that hurricane continues to move towards shore, the outer bands are not going to have that much influence on the tornadoes, because the outer bands are going to go further out offshore into the Atlantic Ocean. But after the hurricane makes landfall, then we're going to see the storm move across Florida, the Florida Peninsula. Then we're going to see more of the outer bands of the hurricane move ashore. Then we're going to see more tornadoes after the hurricane makes landfall. I hope you understand that. And I keep having these stupid YouTube commercials here. Dadgummit. But as I said, Hurricane Milton is going to make landfall sometime between, say, 11 p.m. tonight and 1 a.m. in the morning. Something like that. Milton has been moving slower and slower towards landfall since the wind shear hit the hurricane and lowered the strength of the storm. The storm has slowed down. Again, Milton is now a strong Category 3 major hurricane. Earlier today, this morning, even at 11 a.m. this morning, it was still a Cat 5. However, because again of the wind shear event this afternoon, the category dropped. The strength of the hurricane dropped. It's got maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour, which means Milton will still be a major hurricane when it reaches landfall. Now, we are already seeing storm surge. We're already seeing storm surge, some minor inches, 6 inches, a foot high. Others, people along the shoreline, are seeing 5 foot of storm surge already. That's because the storm is actually being pushed onto land by the winds. The winds are pushing that storm towards landfall. And as the winds push the storm towards landfall, it's pushing all that water from the Gulf of Mexico over onto the shoreline of Tampa Bay, Bradenton, and that whole area. Sarasota, Florida area. We're going to continue to see that happen. We may see up to 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. That is unsurvivable. Now, my meeting this morning with all of you showed you this event. Again, the storm surge at 10 to 15 feet high is unsurvivable. Let me explain it again. I want to make sure everybody understands storm surge. Hopefully, by the time we are finished with this hurricane, everybody will understand storm surge. Let me bring this up. Okay? I've often showed you this during the past 2 weeks. When we only have 2 to 3 foot of storm surge, that's what we saw in terms of the Catawba River overflowing its banks here in Morganton, North Carolina. 3.5, 4 foot of water overflowing the banks. Actually, it was more like 8 feet of water overflowing the banks, and maybe having 3 to 4 feet of water enter the businesses along that strip mall that we showed you last week or 2 weeks ago. Now, we are expecting 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Normally, a ceiling of any home is about 8 feet tall. Some ceilings of businesses and some homes may reach as high as 10 feet. Imagine having water reach up to 15 feet high, well above ceiling height. If anybody is in their house and the water reaches 10 feet, you're going to drown. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a 10 to 15 foot storm surge is unsurvivable. Anybody that is along the coastline, when a 10 to 15 foot storm surge hits, you're going to drown. Now, the Tampa Bay Police Chief and the Sarasota Police Chief and the Bradenton Police Chief met with Governor DeSantis earlier today. They also talked about storm surge and how it is not going to be survivable. This morning, people still had the opportunity to possibly evacuate their homes and go to shelters. Travel 5 to 10 miles away from their homes to be in shelters to ride out this storm. Now, we just got a notification from the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service said that now is not the time to leave. Now the time is to shelter in place. It is no longer safe to leave your home and evacuate. The time passed for that an hour ago. The time passed for evacuation an hour ago. You need to be sheltering in place. During the past couple of days, we've talked about sheltering in place and having the materials and items necessary to survive this storm. We talked about having an evacuation plan. We've talked about having an emergency preparedness plan. We've talked about having an emergency preparedness kit and what things you need to have in that emergency preparedness kit. This is important. You need to be sheltering in place right now. You need to be sheltering in place right now, immediately. Do not go outside. If you are not already having rain, you will be shortly. The storm has already moved close enough to shore that the storm surge has become a problem. There has been some rainfall already. You're going to see more and more of that as we move forward tonight. You'll see a lot of rainfall as we move forward tonight. This is the earth cam over in Naples, Florida. See where this pier is? And see how high the waves of the Atlantic Ocean are? The storm surge is very real here. Very real. The water level or storm surge has moved up to 5 feet, with a possible maximum level of 10 to 15 feet sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. This is, like I said, is considered not to be survivable. You're not able to evacuate at this point in time. You need to be sheltering in place. Some storm chasers have been out there in the area tonight. They were told to evacuate the outer islands of Florida immediately, or they would be arrested. So they evacuated those outer islands. Now, once the storm really gets going, police officers will not be able to rescue you when winds exceed 45 miles per hour. Police and fire department personnel will not be able to rescue you when the winds exceed 45 miles per hour. You need to stay in your homes. Prior to this point today, you should have been able to pick up your yards to make sure anything that was able to be blown about was already safely tucked away inside your home. Now, the state of Florida, over in the area of Perry, Florida, and Taylor County, officials located thousands and thousands of square yards of debris. They've already hauled off hundreds and hundreds of truckloads of debris from Hurricane Helene. They were not able to haul off everything, however. Hopefully, the debris that is left over from Hurricane Helene will be safe where it's at. Hopefully. I will tell you right now, anything that is left out, anything that's outside, when the wind picks up, the wind will pick up that debris and will toss it around like play toys. We've already seen areas where the rooftops are starting to pull up. And the hurricane has hardly gotten started yet here on the land. It has not even made landfall. But because of the winds of the outer bands of the hurricane reaching over land, we've already seen roofs trying to lift off the houses and the buildings. This is not good. Okay? Again, you need to have everything ready for yourself and your family. Nobody's going to be able to rescue you at all. Not at all. I want to make sure you are ready for whatever is happening. I'm just putting that out there. You need to be ready for whatever is going to happen tonight. Now, FEMA is saying that they have 1,000 responders on the ground in Florida supporting Milton. FEMA spokesman Jacqueline Rothenberg broke down on the specifics of the resources that the agency had mobilized. She broke down knowing what's going to happen. She was not able to hold it all together. However, she did say that there are 1,400 search and rescue personnel. There are 7 incident management teams. There are 400 ambulances. 400 ambulances. Ambulances that belong to the cities, the counties, and ambulances from all across the United States that have gathered there on the outskirts of the storm, waiting to be available after the storm leaves the areas. There are 20 helicopters for medical evacuations. There are 60 high water vehicles. There are 20 million meals ready to be served as soon as it is able to be done. There are 40 million liters of water that are available to people that survive this hurricane. Now, I want to put this out there as well. If you are one of the people on the ground that are going to ride out this storm, if you have an electrical generator and you're going to operate that generator, you need to please put it about 20 feet away from your house. That way your house is not going to succumb to any carbon monoxide poisoning. Put it 20 feet away from your house and then use it from there. If it is about to run out of fuel, don't wait for it to run out of fuel. Let it cool down 20 minutes, shut it off, and we'll let it cool down 20 minutes before you refuel it. Otherwise, you may have an electrical fire. Never, never, never operate a gas generator inside a garage or your house. Never do it. Never operate your gas grill inside your house. Never. Carbon monoxide poisoning does not take very long to happen, but it will kill you. It will kill you dead. It will kill you dead. Now, I want to say this. Florida Governor DeSantis had 3 different times that he held press conferences yesterday during the day. One early morning, one early afternoon, and one later yesterday evening. Already, Governor DeSantis has held 2 news conferences already today. He's a great man. I really love Governor DeSantis. No, he's not my governor. But he is running the show in Florida, and he's showing what a true American does. He's working for his citizens of his state, showing that what true leadership is. Governor DeSantis in this afternoon's press conference showed many hundreds of linemen that are just waiting to go to work in Florida. There are 50,000 linemen from around this country. They're staged just outside the hurricane cone, waiting to go to work as soon as the hurricane passes. Right before I went on the air, there were over 115,000 homes already without power. And that number is going up by the minute. We expect to have several million people without power in Florida before tonight's over. Winds are picking up. And we just had another tornado alert just a minute ago. One more tornado warning. That makes 18 tornado warnings for today so far. And we have not hardly gotten started. Okay? Winds are picking up. Tornadoes are all over the area. There are tornado watches and hurricane watches and warnings that are up. The winds are knocking down power all over. This is going to continue to happen for the next 12 to 24 hours. A total of 90 tornado warnings have been issued in Florida today. 90 tornado warnings have been issued in Florida today. Like I said, there are over 50,000 electrical linemen staged just outside the danger area to begin restoring power as soon as the storm passes. Hurricane Milton is wreaking havoc on air travel. Right before I went on the air, FlightAware.com was showing more than 1,900 flight cancellations within, into, and outside of the United States. Most of those cancellations were originating from Orlando and Tampa International Airports, which were closed ahead of the storm's arrival. Orlando was closed this morning. Tampa Bay was closed yesterday. Tropical storm force winds and heavy rainfall are ongoing. It's dangerous. It's going to be continuing to be dangerous. Milton is currently located approximately 90 miles west-northwest of Fort Myers, Florida, and 100 miles southwest of Tampa, moving northeast at approximately 17 miles per hour. Earlier, a camera fixed at the Naples Pier showed waters rising during what was supposed to be low tide. And you can see what is happening right now in Naples now. The pier is suffering a lot of wave action, and there may be damage on that pier right now. Further at the end of the pier, you see the end of the pier sticking up at the very end out in the ocean. And the ocean water is going over the end of the pier. Residents of Sarasota, Florida have just received text messages from the government saying the time has now come to shelter in place. It is now too dangerous to try to evacuate your homes, shelter in place in Sarasota, Florida. That's going to be the case now throughout tomorrow. Shelter in place. Do not plan on going anywhere. Do not plan on going anywhere. Does anyone have any questions for me? Does anyone have any questions for me? I want to make sure you have the latest information. It's absolutely important. It's absolutely important. You cannot go anywhere without having this information. Now, I want to give you the latest information from Fox Weather. Let me show you what they're putting out here. You're kidding me. It stalled out.
Coastline, 7, 6, almost 8 inches of radar estimated rainfall, and sometimes these numbers can be skewed a tiny bit high, but either way, we're still in the ballpark of some serious rainfall.
So all of this out here, which is up 10, 15 inches of rain, all of this, what we'll do is we'll just kind of draw this is going this way, and this is going this way. So this whole area is going to have a major flood problem in the next 5 to 10 hours. Maybe not 10 hours. We'll say in the next 5 to 6 hours. And you're talking rainfall totals 12, 15, 16 inches of rain. This has been an incredible year. You think what happened with Debbie. You think we've had so many of these big rain events, and on they go, and there's a lot more to come.
Yeah. And while that's happening, those same spots that you highlighted there that are going to see the heavy rain also will experience the potential for hurricane-force winds all the way across the state off to the East Coast. Because remember, this forecast does call for this storm to be a hurricane through and through from one coast to the other. It's very rare that happens, but it takes a major hurricane like this, and even with the weakening trend that we talk about, the drier air getting into it, still a powerful hurricane, major hurricane expected on landfall.
Can we pull up?
Okay. Christian's asking, are these storms going to become the norm? Pretty much. Pretty much. Now, folks, I may be out stretching my arm. I believe a lot of these storms are manipulated. I believe these storms have been manipulated, including this one here. Why do I say that? Twice already within the past 3 days, Milton had become a Category 5 storm twice. Twice. That doesn't normally happen. I've been covering storms now for going on 5 years. I've never seen a hurricane be cut down to a Category 3 or 4 and go up to a Category 5 again twice. That is what's happening to Milton. Now, because of the wind shear that we told you about, Milton is only a Category 3 storm. Could it possibly go over to a Category 4? Yes. Absolutely it could. Because the storm is still out to sea. As it gets closer to land, it will have less and less chance of being a Category 4 or greater. But right now, it's at the border of a Category 3, Category 4 storm. Okay? Please, folks, if you have a question, do not hesitate to ask the question. And I will answer it to the most certain extent that I can. If I don't have an answer, I will get that answer. Let's go back out to the Fox weatherman.
The Earth Cam again?
Yeah.
On that. Let's see what's going on down at some of these piers, and we'll go. I always think looking at what's going on live. Does not look like it's maybe frozen. There you go.
I'll work on getting it up.
Yeah.
A lot of these cameras freeze, of course. You can imagine the connection as a hurricane's making landfall.
Look at Hudson
You may
Beach.
have lost it. No,
It's already raining
Yeah.
there.
Hold
And
on,
look at
get
the
back on
palm
it.
trees.
Here we are.
It's pretty rough.
That's what onshore wind looks like, driving all that surge onto the beach.
That looks like a hurricane, and that type of weather will just ride up the west coast. So I think we'll take a bit of a break, and we'll go back to you guys.
Okay, yeah, good.
And we'll kind of gather our radar tools together, and we'll update you guys again pretty soon.
All right,
We appreciate
thanks.
it.
Sure
Thank
do.
you, Nash and Paul.
Okay? Barb is asking a question. Will Hurricane Milton force the science to create the level 6 designation? No, because it's already been created. The National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center has not given us information about the Category 6, but has already been designated by the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center.
Pasco County, they've been getting plenty of wind and rain so far, and they're getting ready for even more of it tonight.
This is just what Nash and
Yeah.
Paul were showing us. Heavy rain coming down. Fox 13's Kylie Jones. Let's see if she's in it now. I know it's been kind of on and off.
Hurricane Heather, we are going to show Port Charlotte in a short while. Yes, it's gnarly.
Kylie, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, Chris, well, we are definitely in it. I can tell you that right now. Just in the last hour, that rain and the wind especially has picked up quite a bit. You can hear the gusts of wind, and at times we can even hear the wind howling in the background. I'll step out of the way, give you a better visual of kind of what you're looking at. You can see the wind blowing the rain, whether it's down on the ground or just in the air. It's blowing sheets of rain kind of across the way. We're in a neighborhood in Port Richey. This is right on the water. This is one of those many neighborhoods in the county that went through quite a bit with Hurricane Helene 2 weeks ago. Some of these homes had several feet of water inside. The home we're actually standing at had 4 feet of water inside. And, you know, neighbors are really just worried about the potential for round 2 with all of this. I mean, you can see the wind and the rain picking up quite a bit right now, and this is just the very beginning. It's only expected to get worse into the evening hours with the combination of the rainfall and all of the wind. Emergency officials here are really still concerned about the potential for storm surge flooding and flash flooding. Those are the main concerns, similar to with Hurricane Helene. So again, a lot of people here are really just worried about the potential for more flooding yet again. You can actually hear, honestly, I'm not even sure if it's sirens in the distance or the wind whistling and howling, but this neighborhood in Port Richey, again by the water, has been pretty much a ghost town all day long, which is a sign of good news that hopefully people did heed the warnings and evacuate either out of the area or to a shelter. At our last check, there were almost 6,000 people in the Pasco County shelters, so that is some good news. But by the looks of the weather, you can probably imagine that window to evacuate has closed at this point. So the homeowner right here we talked to, he evacuated. He had 4 feet of water in his house with Helene, though. We got a little bit of video of that earlier today. His house, unfortunately, is gutted. He lost just about everything. All he could really do ahead of Milton was lock up, evacuate from his house, and really hope for the best. But it's just devastating for a lot of people here. Again, they're worried, will this happen again? What will they come home to this time? Will they see more water in their house? but he had just finished rebuilding from Aveyah. His home was essentially brand new inside. Then he had 4 feet of water inside during Helene, and he's worried about, what's going to happen now. So take a listen to what he said.
You can't salvage anything. Everything's gone. And everything was new. I did this 13 months ago. So everything in the house was new. And now it's gone.
Yeah, heartbreaking for him and so many other people along the coastline here in Pasco County. And again, emergency officials are most concerned about the potential for storm surge and flash flooding throughout the evening. Again, the window to evacuate has closed at this point. Emergency officials are asking people to shelter in place, be in the safest possible place you can be at this point. You can see the wind is really starting to pick up. And again, it's bringing the rain down even stronger. So with this wind and rain, again, emergency responders really can't get out to help people. So they're asking you to shelter in place. And we're going to send it back to you guys right now. We're going to get in a safe place ourselves.
Yes.
So I'll talk.
Okay, I'm going to end right there for just a minute. I will come back to this broadcast. Okay, you need to see what's happening. Let's go over to Port Charlotte. Hold on a second. Wait till you see this, guys. Like Heather says, it's gnarly. It's gnarly out there. I thought I was going to have this camera working, but again, now it's going round and round and round again. Okay, right now you're seeing the storm surge go up and over the end of that pier. Okay, you can see the water on the pier here. A few minutes ago, it was going up and over it. Now apparently something happens to the feed, and we have the wheel going around and round. Let's go back to the Fox Weather People's feed.
Definitely get in there. Thank you, Kylie Jones in Pasco County. I want to tell you real quick, too, just got this news from our Kaylee Tracy, who's covering St. Petersburg, telling us that they've taken 2 of the water treatment facilities, the sewer treatment facilities, offline. They told us that they would do that when the threat of flooding became an issue. They needed to protect the equipment, so they're asking people not to flush toilets, shower, or do laundry. City of St. Petersburg at this time.
All right. The winds and rain bands from Hurricane Milton are growing stronger. We see that.
Yep. It's being felt, too, in places like Safety Harbor. That's where Fox 13's Genevieve Curtis is.
Hey guys, we are in Safety Harbor, and this is the pier that was absolutely decimated by Helene. And right now you can see the chop out there on the bay really starting to pick up. The winds, the palm trees really starting to blow out here. This is a favorite area in Pinellas County, and there are still some boats over here in the bay, in the harbor, that are remain standing here from Helene. But again, what we are expecting from Milton is going to be more intense. They expect the storm surge to be more intense in this area. This whole area has been blocked off. They actually have blockades up here at the top to keep the public from coming down to this area that was just decimated by Helene. We don't know what this area will look like after Milton, but certainly they have taken all the precautions here in Safety Harbor to keep people from coming down to this area. And just take a look at, again, the power of Mother Nature. What we saw happen here during Helene, Milton.
Look at those palm trees blowing. All that wind is going to blow the water from the Gulf of Mexico over the land. That's called storm surge.
Expected to have even more of an impact. For now, I'll send it back to you. We are in Safety Harbor. Genevieve Curtis, Fox 13 News.
Thanks, Genevieve. Well, this is an encouraging sight to see here. A parking garage filled with cars, but take a close look here. Most of these, almost all of these, are electric. They're parked up in the Poe parking garage in downtown Tampa, away from any potential flooding. That's because of what we saw during Hurricane Helene. Remember, many electric cars got salt water into the batteries and caught fire, and even caught houses on fire in some cases. So people are taking this seriously. The city of Tampa opened up its parking garages and encouraged EV owners to do exactly this.
Yeah, lessons learned. All right, Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputies, they helped rescue a dog that got loose during the storm. See this video? The dog was under the care of a sitter and it somehow escaped. Luckily, the deputies were ready to chase down the little pup, and you can see, well, after a little bit of chasing, those small legs can go fast. They got it. It's safe. So at least some good news with this rescue story.
Okay. Kristen just asked a good question. What is the best way to send help to the people in Florida? I'm going to wait until tomorrow morning to give you that information. You can go back to our program from last night and the night before. I gave you that information the other night. I gave you all the information you needed to be able to help the people in Florida. The American Red Cross was number one. And I'll give you that information again in the morning. We will be coming back on the air tomorrow morning to let you know what's going on. We need to do that because the hurricane will totally change between now and the morning as it comes ashore. Arnold Smith says there are weather events like flooding happening everywhere on Earth. Is this a reminder from our Creator for us to acknowledge the signs of the times? Yes. But even more so, it's weather manipulation by the people wanting to control us. I believe a good portion of tonight's storm that we're going to see is caused by weather manipulation. We've never seen anything like this happen before. We never saw anything like Hurricane Helene either. Hurricane Helene was the second most deadly storm in written history, if not the most deadly storm in written history. We are going to see things happening with Hurricane Milton that are going to make this storm stand out in the annals of hurricane stories. That's what we're going to see.
And they're watching out for our little animals.
Our first responders out there, they're going to have some long hours ahead of them. We appreciate them so much.
Sure do.
All right, stay with us. Our continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton continues after this short break.
All right, you're just listening in there to our Fox 13 team in Tampa detailed the latest. We do get some of these very striking images as landfall is coming in the next several hours for Hurricane Milton as well. This one, I believe they're in Clearwater. You can barely see the pier in the distance due to the rain and the wind there on the Gulf Coast of Florida in Clearwater Beach. And it's very difficult to see as the storm surge growing rapidly by the minute, but it's not the only impacts that we're seeing right now. We're also following the latest with some tornado watches and warnings across central and southern Florida. Let's take you right now out to our Fox 35 team. They're talking about another watch, a tornado warning in Brevard County until 6:15, so about 15 more minutes. Let's listen into the latest from what they have to say, more centrally located there in Florida.
Crosses the Banana River, and then it goes towards Cocoa and the Merritt Square Mall. So if you're anywhere near Cocoa and the Merritt Square Mall, that's where you call home. This is a tornado over the Banana River right now. Now remember, Doppler radar is like taking a picture of a train. The train is the tornado, and we're the camera and the photographer. Tornadoes don't just move like this, like we see them on the radar. So even though it shows it right here, it's probably right here right now, coming across the other side of the Banana River right now. And yeah, this is not as strong as the tornadoes to the south. I wouldn't say this is like anything like EF3 or anything like that, but this is certainly of concern right there. And that is where it's tracking the Merritt Square Mall, Cocoa, and Rockledge right now. Let's go back to the radar view here of this, and you can see that there's rain out ahead of it. It's raining right now in Cocoa, Rockledge, but that's not the tornado right now. We can see that on our shear rate product. You can see it lines up with the velocity right there. Very well, actually. Let me see if I can get our debris, and you see there's a little pop there. Let me see if I can get this on our different modes. So this is going to be behind by a minute. So it's the next scan of our debris tracker that you'll see that. And Laurel, TJ, I don't know if you're over there, Laurel. If you see anything else, please jump in over me about this. Try to see if we have any reports or anything from the Weather Service that have come in. I have not seen anything, at least right now, but at least a detection possible here of tornado debris. So when you're looking at this debris mode, the radar is telling us where things are similar or dissimilar. Obviously, everything similar would be raindrops. They're meteorological. Non-meteorological objects would show up as a yellow or a blue color.
Okay, where you see that circle around what looks to be a debris ball, that's exactly what it is. That debris ball says to us that there is something bad happening, meaning a tornado. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, guys. That shouldn't be happening. Sorry, guys, I fixed it. My son was calling his mother on our family group, and sometimes that goes through here. Anyway, what he has circled there is a debris ball from the tornado. That happened about an hour ago. Okay? There was a water spout off the coast of Cocoa Beach between Cape Canaveral, Merritt Island, which is the NASA Manned Spacecraft Center there, and Cocoa Beach. That water spout went onto land, which made it a tornado. And yes, it did cause some debris on the ground. That's what happens when a tornado hits land here or drops to the ground. You're going to see a debris ball. This particular debris ball, guys, had debris as high as 1,800 feet above land. The updraft of the wind from the tornado carried that debris off the ground to 1,800 feet above land. Unreal. Unreal. That's what happened.
Later on, if you're not able to have access to power after this storm. Now, we did talk to a county spokesperson here at the EOC who shared with us some tips about you riding out the storm if you're in your home.
If you're concerned about the wind, if the wind starts, getting really strong and you feel like it's going to damage your roof, you can go into an interior room with no windows and hunker down in there during the worst of the storm, which will probably be kind of in the late hours tonight into the early morning hours.
Yeah, and so I also talked about this earlier in the afternoon, but Pinellas County has their Alert Pinellas system that they're really encouraging people to sign up for. Again, while you still have service, while you still have power, you can just type it into your browser here. This page will pop up. It's really easy to hit that sign up button, and that's how you're able to kind of get those text message alerts about what's going on here within the county. Other counties have those kinds of alert systems as well. You'll get a text message right to your phone letting you know what's going on, and just to keep you updated about conditions as this storm kind of passes through. And it's just really important for people, again, to make sure that they are in their safe place right now, stay off of the roads, and just be smart. Back to you.
Yeah, that alert Pinellas is pretty neat, Brianna. As a Pinellas County resident, I signed up for that today, and it works great. So I encourage anybody in Pinellas to do that. Alert Pinellas, it's very easy. Brianna, thanks very much. We'll get back to you. We heard from Mayor.
All right, that was just some of the coverage that we were receiving in from Fox 13 there in Tampa, as their reporters in their newsroom are just bracing for impact. They are expecting the early parts of the eye wall to start coming on shore within the hour, and in the next 2 hours, this hurricane will have officially made landfall there in Florida. So, of course, we are keeping a very close eye on our Tampa stations, as it is expected to hit slightly below that area in the Sarasota area. Right now, again, we're going to keep a close eye on it. But in the meantime, I do want to bring into the program now Sheriff Carmine Marcino. He's the sheriff of Lee County, Florida, which is just a little bit further south than Tampa, one of the major cities there in that area. And I just want to check in here to see if the sheriff can hear us. Sheriff Carmine Marcino.
Okay, just a second, guys. I just want to interrupt for just a second. Things are going to get a lot worse. This hurricane apparently is sped up. As she said, the outer eye wall of the hurricane will hit land within the next hour, which means it will hit land by 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The hurricane was not supposed to make landfall until at least 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock tonight. Apparently, the hurricane has sped up. Can you say weather manipulation?
Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Sheriff, we talked to you yesterday as your team was preparing and making those preparations ahead of the landfall of Hurricane Milton. At this time, we know that it is rapidly approaching the Florida coast. What's happening there in Lee County? You are out and about and sort of surveying some of the damage that has already come from this storm.
Well, we are. As always, we look at the storm as three parts. It's before, during, and after. And we are rapidly approaching the during part, almost there, So we have multiple tornadoes that have touched down, along the Lee County area. There's been damage. Obviously, the fire departments, local government have evacuated all the barrier islands. But know that we have all assets and hands on deck. Our shallow water boats, the high water rescue vehicles, everything is out there deployed at the button so that our residents are going to be safe no matter what. At this point, we just want to make sure people are sheltering in place and making us and allowing us to do our job much easier.
And when you're talking about some of those hurricanes that came through, we had video earlier of one that came out of Lewiston, which is in the southwest Florida area. What is the early damage looking like from those tornadoes? Because, of course, if folks there in southwest Florida were planning on sheltering in place, some of them are now without a home or an area to shelter and had to be removed to one of those other shelters there in the county.
Of course, we started feeling the effects of the storm around noon. The rain bands and the extended bands coming through. Obviously, we see the storm surge coming across, in Pine Island, in Sanibel, Captiva, the barrier islands, and the waterways are starting to come across and flood, and we're still not at high tide. And again, unfortunately, post-Hurricane Ian, Helene, we're still recovering. So our great residents are out there, and so many residents in the state of Florida are working hard just to stay safe. And I spoke to the Lieutenant Governor Nunes and the governor's office. Governor DeSantis has done a great job. Senator Scott, everyone is talking, communicating, working to make sure that local law enforcement, local, state, and federal partners are working together as a cohesive team to ensure the residents get Concierge level of service during time of need.
And when we're looking right now at some live footage there out of Lee County, we can see this weather camera shaking as the water is beginning to come on shore, covering parts of the road. I have to ask you, what are the main areas of concern there in Lee County, especially when it comes to flooding and potential rescues that might have to happen after the storm?
We're concerned with everywhere. Lee County is about 1,260 square miles, but our primary concerns where we start to really zero in are going to be the beachheads, the lower laying areas, from the downtown Fort Myers area, the Matlacha Bridge, Sanibel Causeway, the barrier islands, Fort Myers Beach, which was known as our ground zero. Again, watching the water come through the Gulf and meeting the bay side. So, again, we're going to monitor these areas. We have every asset deployed, and again, we're going to make certain that our residents are going to be safe. And a clear message also for those that want to come from other places that want to prey on our great residents. We can tell you this, not the state of Florida and not in Lee County. You know, we protect our residents, our great residents live with law and order, and I'm going to make certain of it.
And that's a good point, because Sheriff Carmine, Marcino, there are a lot of folks there who have vacation or secondary homes who maybe come down for the winter, snowbirds, if you will, and that's not their primary property that they have there in Southwest Florida. What is the concern like for safety and of their property to make sure that no bad actors are continuing or maybe even thinking about burglarizing some of these homes that aren't currently occupied?
Of course. I mean, that's always a concern, and we plan properly for it. Strategically, we use all our equipment, drones, electronic surveillance units, detectives, plainclothes people. It's all hands on deck, and we communicate with our sheriff partners throughout the entire state. We live in a law and order state, which is phenomenal, and I will tell you this, while it is a concern always, I want everyone to rest well knowing that no one is going to prey on them. If someone makes that mistake and that error, I can tell you right now, they're lucky if they make it to jail. You walk into someone's house, you get carried out.
All right, Sheriff Carmine, I do want to ask you quickly before I let you go. Again, with these back-to-back hurricanes, there's just been so much concern of how law enforcement and how the other areas and those really important departments that are taking on the brunt of making sure that so many areas recover from the storm are doing during this time. Do you feel any of those challenges with Hurricane Helene just hitting the state again less than 2 weeks ago?
You know, yes, we do. I mean, obviously, Helene, we didn't get the direct hit, but the bands were hundreds of miles away. And again, the surge, everyone pays close attention to the category of storm and where exactly it's going to hit. But these storms are tremendous. I mean, the eye of this storm was over 60 miles wide, you know, with hurricane winds. But the tropical band went over 300 to 400 miles out. So the entire state is affected. But again, you know, we are so strong together. Local, state, federal partners, everybody's working. Every place in Florida, no matter what county gets hit, we are all going to pull together and make certain that everyone gets the resources needed. The Florida Sheriff's Association works with everybody, and we do a great job together, and together we're the strongest. And that's what makes us, you know, in a great position during these most difficult times.
Sheriff Marcino, we've seen certain other counties there in the state already cease their 911 operations. I have to ask you, are you all still taking calls at this time, or is that put on pause until the worst of the storm passes?
So once we hit a sustained wind of 45 miles an hour, we pull our deputies off the roadway, and that's why we push so hard, you know, the 3 stages of the storm, before, during, and after. Well, before, it's so important to get the message out, to get people out of harm's way, because if they stay and they call 911, there is no one to respond. But the second we are able to respond, we deploy. But I can tell you, as of about an hour ago, we were in great shape as far as our 911 calls. People are, you know, they listen. The message got out. We're very thankful for the media helping us and for everyone getting that message out. I know Governor DeSantis and his staff was really pushing hard, and Senator Scott as well, and Congressman Byron Donald, all the people that have a voice that get out, got that message out, and the residents listened. It almost looked like a ghost town driving down by the beaches, which is exactly what we wanted. We can always rebuild buildings. We can always build, you know, build better. But to replace someone's life, that doesn't work. It doesn't happen. So as long as we have no loss of life, that's the real win.
Absolutely no loss of life. That would be a great turnout from this very powerful storm that is now barreling through the state of Florida. Thank you so much for your time, Sheriff Carmine Marcino with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. They are keeping the residents of Southwest Florida safe.
Okay, notice what he said. Sheriff Carmine said they have a law and order state. If you commit a burglary, if you commit a looting, there is a chance you will be carried away from there. You won't be walking away from there. You won't be walking into a courtroom. You'll be carried away from there. Listen to that. Listen to that and remember it. You may not walk away. You may not walk away. Yes, they've had looting there. One lady in Texas, for example, they had some looting. 4 idiots, 4 gangbangers from Venezuela walked into this woman's home. They pistol whipped her. They threatened to cut off her fingers. They looted her home. As soon as they left her home, she ran to a neighbor's home and called 911. One of the gentlemen that was there looting her home that had threatened her, threatened to cut off her fingers, pistol whipped her, ended up getting caught. Then he turned on the other 3. Texas is also a law and order state. Those other 3 gangbangers will get caught. These are gangbangers that had residency status because of Harris and Biden. Those gangbangers from Venezuela had residency status from Biden and Harris. They're not going to have it any longer. Okay? Sheriff Carmine said that you might get carried away. You won't survive it. Thank you, Sheriff, for that.
Thank you.
All right, again, we are going to continue on with our coverage here of Hurricane Milton, tracking as it is quickly approaching the Florida Peninsula. We have been hearing some results that say that it's going to hit before midnight Eastern time. So those exact times aren't confirmed, but again, they are expecting some of the worst winds and rains to come through the Tampa area within the next hour and a half or so. So let's go ahead and listen back into our coverage.
Because the swales here seem to be doing their job so far. Now here along MLK Jr. Boulevard, right near Raymond James Stadium, we are seeing some pooling in the roadways already as rain is kind of coming in a sideways angle with those wind gusts kind of passing through the area. Fortunately, not a whole lot of cars on the road, which just goes to show that people are kind of hunkering in place and, of course, need to continue to do so as Milton continues to approach Tampa Bay. For now, in Hillsborough County, Jennifer Baglis, Fox 13 News.
All right, Jennifer, thanks. We just got word we're going to hear from the governor soon. That's coming up probably in just a couple of minutes. So let's take a short break. We'll be back with more continuous coverage. Something from the governor in Tallahassee, of course.
Yeah, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Live now from Fox, we're continuing our coverage of Hurricane Milton. We are going to now step away for a 2-minute break, but on the other side, our continuous coverage as this storm is quickly barreling towards the state of Florida continues.
Okay, they're going to take a break, which means you get to hear me talk. We're not a godless nation. You try to hurt us, you're going to pay for it. You try to hurt us, you will pay for it. We've already seen that in New York and Chicago and various other places around this country. Those godless people that came into our country from the southern border are going to pay for it. They may not walk away. They may not walk away. I'm going to put it out again. And I mean what I say. You may not walk away. I am hoping another president comes in and puts a stop to all the horse crap that's been going on. I didn't mean to turn this into a soapbox about politics, but I can't stand what's been happening. It has to stop. And it has to stop now. Okay? Now, getting back to this storm, while they're on break, you can see camera views around the area in Florida of what's happening. The rain is falling, and we're going to see more and more rainfall coming through there. As that rainfall comes in, we may not be able to have coverage, but we will try to stay full coverage for as long as we can. Again, Milton is coming ashore. It's a matter of time. The outer bands of this storm have already gone ashore. The eye wall of this storm isn't scheduled to come ashore until late tonight. But if this storm is anything like they're saying, it may come ashore sooner than that.
Evans. Again, we're continuing to track the path of Hurricane Milton as it is quickly approaching the Florida Peninsula. Let's now turn our attention to our Fox 35 coverage there in Orlando as they are giving us the very latest of what's happening on the ground.
Right here, I mean, that's literally your tornado that came in earlier. You see right where those green and red meet, that's the tornado.
Any other confirmations? I know we've had so many. You had a dozen tornado warnings at one time.
There's one, the one that was coming out of St. Lucie. I remember if you guys, so we had the tornado at the emergency, we had a huge one.
Yeah.
And we were worried, that was the one that prompted those warnings in the Orlando area. It moved north towards Orange County. When it was in rural parts of Osceola, we had a storm chaser send a video of a very strong tornado. But it was in the middle of Osceola County with a zoom, and thankfully nobody was there. But we could have very much been reporting on us now a E3 tornado hitting a town somewhere. It just happened to be in the middle of nothing in Osceola County, thankfully. But that would, I would say, would be the second one that we had.
So now that we're getting later into the evening, are our tornado threats dying down a little bit?
Probably, yeah. Okay. Because when the sun was up, even though it was cloudy, the sun still heats the ground through the clouds. Not as much if it was sunny, obviously, but now that the sun is set, that little reduction of the temperature is probably just enough to put a lid on the tornado threat for now.
So that threat goes down, but then increasing is the flooding risk.
And wind. Chapters 2 and 3, I think, will be the biggest, and especially the wind has trended up. I think the wind is honestly going to catch a lot of people by surprise, even though we've talked about it all week. I think when this is all done with, people are going to go, wow, in some areas, it was windier than I realized it may be, just because this storm is going to merge with the jet stream. So the winds in front of the eye are not bad. Now, 5, 6, 10, 11 p.m., and then at 4 in the morning, it's going to be, bam, on the backside, the winds flip it the other way, and that'll be really strong.
Yeah, so time things out for us. It's 7:30 right now.
All right, that was just some of our coverage there from Fox 35 in Orlando. I do want to now turn your attention. We're going to head out to Florida Live, where Governor Ron DeSantis is giving an update there on the conditions and what's expected for the state. Let's listen in here on Live now.
His third press conference.
With many, many more to come. Numerous counties have reported tornado damage. Peak storm surge is predicted to be between 5 and 13 feet, depending on where you are on the Gulf Coast of Florida. As of right now, the peak storm surge looks to be between the Charlotte-Lee County line up until Anna Maria Island in Manatee County. Prior to landfall, the state completed nearly 2,000 missions. Generators were sent to shelters. We have massive amounts of fuel reserves that are staged and ready to go, millions of gallons of gas. When the ports reopen, Florida Highway Patrol will be standing by to escort fuel trucks to service stations so that people will have access to fuel as they return to their homes. The Florida Department of Transportation is staged and ready to go as soon as the storm passes. They have 156 bridge inspectors, which will go to clear the bridges, 402 cut and toss personnel, and over 1,000 generators and 350 pieces of heavy equipment and trucks. We have massive amounts of search and rescue equipment and personnel standing by. And we hope that there's not a big need for that, but we're prepared for that. And that's not just our state and local, it's also our National Guard, our State Guard. We have about 9,000 National Guard personnel between Florida and other states. We also have Florida Highway Patrol, Fish and Wildlife, Department of Law Enforcement, and of course our Florida State Guard. There was a lot of questions about pre-staging linemen, which is our practice here in Florida, given that you have a lot of linemen working for Hurricane Helene in places like Georgia and North Carolina. I'm happy to report that we have over 50,000 linemen that are in the state of Florida, and as soon as it's safe to do so, they will commence with power restoration. We're already seeing power outages. You're going to continue to see a lot more power outages over the course of tonight and into tomorrow morning. Now, at this point, it's too dangerous to evacuate safely, so you have to shelter in place and just hunker down. Category 3 storm for most places in Florida, particularly newer construction, likely the building is going to be able to withstand it. But if you start to get in a situation where trees are snapping, power's popping, you do have to treat it like a tornado. And then if you are in a tornado warning, that's a duck and cover in a place that's safe in your structure. Those can be very, very dangerous, even if you are inside in cover. Stay inside and stay off the roads. Floodwaters and rushing storm surge are very dangerous. And I would say that's even more so in spite of everything the state did to help these local communities hit by Helene remove a lot of debris, and they did move a lot of debris over the last 72 hours. You're going to have new debris created, and you still have some of that old debris in some of those places. So there's going to be hazards in the storm surge and in the flood waters. Stay put until the storm is passed. If you are in Sarasota, Manatee, some of those areas where the eye of the storm is going, it may be where things calm down for a minute. Just understand that means you're in the eye. It's going to go back and get really nasty very soon. So don't go outdoors until it is confirmed safe. You can listen to your local emergency management officials about that one. Power outages are going to happen, as I mentioned. So please, if you're using a generator, make sure that you're using it safely. Do not run the generator inside your home. That can be fatal. Make sure it's outside the home at a safe distance from windows and doorways. If you see dangerous conditions, please report those to your local authorities so that they can help protect people and mitigate it. So the storm is here. It's time for everybody to hunker down. I know we've got massive amounts of resources that have been prepared for this storm. People are tired because of having to deal with Hurricane Helene, and yet all I've seen is people just dig deep inside and say, we're not going to be denied, we're going to get the job done. So I really appreciate everybody that's worked so hard on the heels of Helene to prepare for this storm and to be ready to go. And you will see that in action very shortly as this storm passes. Okay, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor, for leading us through this. Appreciate your support. Conditions across the state continue to deteriorate as Hurricane Milton approaches landfall on Florida's. No more Michael, no sir, no sir. As Hurricane Milton approaches landfall on Florida's west coast, many areas are already experiencing life-threatening storm surge or life-threatening tornadoes. Please make sure if a tornado warning comes in, especially on our east coast of Florida, we have certainly had a lot of tornadic activity over there with confirmed radar signature, confirmed tornadoes. We do have Virginia Task Force 1, Ohio Task Force 1, and Miami Task Force 1 going into those areas to help with those structural collapses that have happened. We're receiving somewhere in the neighborhood, this is really, really rough numbers right now, but about 125 homes that have been destroyed, most of them mobile homes and senior communities. So we're trying to get into Florida's most vulnerable to make sure they're taken care of. If you have not already left, as I just said, as the governor just said, you need to stay inside, stay safe, and stay put. Make sure that you're getting to a central area of your home, that you're getting as low as you possibly can. That is, if you have a single-story residence and no storm surge, you want to get as low as you possibly can. I had this question asked to me earlier. Do I go to the bottom of the house if I got storm surge? The answer is no. If you've got 2 floors, you need to go to the lowest part of the 2nd floor to escape the storm surge. Please do not. If you have storm surge coming in, please just do not go to the lowest level of your home. Do not attempt to leave your home or drive during the storm. Roads may be flooded, blocked by debris, or have down power lines. Please do not risk it. If you hear, as the governor said, if you hear trees snapping, that means that there is going to be flying debris. You should seek shelter immediately and treat it as if it's a tornado. Protect yourself from flying debris by putting household items such as pillows, heavy coats, blankets on top of you. There may be a point where you think the storm is over If it goes from absolutely horrible and terrible to absolutely nothing, then you are most likely in the eye of the tornado. Please stay in place. Do not come out. We are anticipating power outages, as the governor's already mentioned, with this storm. Take time now, if you still have power, to keep those electronic devices plugged in and keep the charge full. If you lose power and are going to use a generator for backup power, please use it safely. You've heard the governor and myself say this. Keep it 20 feet away from the doors and windows of your home. Make sure you wait 20 minutes for it to cool down before you refuel it. Make sure it's on a clean, dry surface. And then be sure to have a carbon monoxide monitor in your home. After the storm has passed your area, it is critical that you listen to local authorities for guidance on when it is safe to go outside or to return home. Do not venture out. Hazardous materials, debris, and flooding could still be present. Do not attempt to clean up the debris by yourself, especially fallen trees or power lines. If you see a dangerous condition, please report it to your local authorities utilizing your 911 lines or non-emergency lines. Residents needing information can continue to call our State Assistance Information Line, which will be open for most likely weeks. That number is 1-800-342-3557. That's 1-800-342-3557. Please follow the agency on X and Instagram at FLSERT and on Facebook at FDEM. That is the best way to go and catch up on latest up-to-date information from the division. If you do not have access to that, but you have access to the internet, please make sure you go to floridadisaster.org/updates. Floridians, we are with you. We will be with you. The state of Florida is leading the way on this charge. Please know that we're coming as fast as we possibly can. There's going to be places that we just cannot get to until the winds die down. But as I've already mentioned, there are strong winds. There are banding rains. But we have the men and women of Florida Task Force 1 out of Miami-Dade, as well as members from the Ohio and Virginia Task Force going into harm's way to help you out. We will continue to do that all night long. I will be here throughout the night along with my team. Governor, it's been a pleasure working with you to this point, but I also want to say thank you for your leadership, and I know that you're not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and I appreciate your leadership. Thank you, sir.
So we are staged with massive amounts of search and rescue assets, not just with the cities and counties and their considerable resources, all the state assets for our state agencies and National Guard, as well as urban search and rescue teams. And so we will be ready to help people who are in harm's way. And hopefully we don't have a lot. I know a lot of people did heed the call to leave, but that will be a priority to save lives. We also have a record number of people there for the restoration of power. These linemen, people love seeing the linemen coming in on the interstate. It's a great sight. They will get to work, get their power resumed as quick as possible. And then we have massive amounts of fuel on standby that we can use, but we also want to make sure these ports get up and running. I mean, we'll see what the damage is to Manatee and to Tampa. We have been discussing, and Kevin and his team have been discussing with our federal partners like the Army Corps and some of these agencies, some expectations about getting these ports back. And I think there's a difference between kind of Florida expectations, which is like we get this stuff done quick, and maybe how the federal bureaucracies have typically worked. But I think that we have had very good conversations. I think there is a sense of urgency with some of the federal agencies as well. But we want to get these ports back open as quickly as possible. We're going to have to assess some damage. Now, the track of this storm, the fact that it is Sarasota, perhaps the Port of Tampa is not going to take a major hit like it would have if it was a direct impact, but we'll see. Manatee is probably going to be a little bit closer to where it's getting some of the big impact, but we think it's really important that all services are be able to resume, and we have contingencies to be able to get fuel in where it needs to go, but it sure be a lot easier if we just get that coming into the ports. And so those are all going to be priorities from here on out. So if you are watching this, just hunker down. If you're in the path of this storm, it's dangerous outside. There's going to be a lot of hazards. Even when it passes, if there's floodwaters, be very careful about any of that. Help is on the way. We're going to get everyone back, get everyone up on their feet again, and we'll mitigate the damage as best we can.
The president said that he has spoken with you. Have you talked about getting more resources from the federal government here in the state, getting things back a little bit?
So as I mentioned, we've been discussing with some of the federal partners about acceleration of what needs to be done, if something needs to be done on these ports. To say like, oh, it's going to be weeks for a port, no, that doesn't work. Okay, we got to get it open. And I think they're of the same mind, and I think that Kevin and our team have had good conversations. We've also, Kevin, I know, is talking, both Kevin and I talked with the FEMA administrator about some of the things that we're looking for. You know, for example, with this debris, let local governments do the debris a little bit differently so that we incentivize people to come and do it quickly. Because the way it goes now, it was hard to even get people to do their debris. You had them going other ways. It just didn't make economic sense for doing that. And a lot of the debris takes like 6 months to do, and that's just kind of been the standard. I think we showed by surging our resources, which is really unprecedented, we knocked out a lot of debris in like 72 hours. So we want to have a debris where there's incentives to do it and do it quickly. I don't want to have to even talk about this now, but we're not out of hurricane season. There is the possibility of another storm brewing, and it's going to come into the Gulf. It's possible. I hope it doesn't happen. But so we want to be able to have them with contractors and have them have things working with the FEMA reimbursements that make sense. And I think Kevin, I think Administrator Criswell has been very receptive to that because it does. It just makes sense.
Governor, in terms of the timeline of recovery, and last time with Helene, you were able to get search and rescue units kind of out there before, if I remember correctly, before the sun even came up.
That'll happen again. Yes. So yeah, they will do in the dark. That is totally, absolutely fine. It's just a question of making sure that it's safe for them to go out. So as soon as that storm passes, and the fact that it came in earlier than thought, that's good for the high tide because the high tide's not here yet. I think it'll help with the surge. But it's going to mean pretty much all the rescues are going to be done in the dark in the middle of the night. But that's fine. They're going to do that. All of our folks are doing that, and they will be on target.
Since you have so many people here in the state, more than previous storms, are you expecting things to kind of be restored quicker than previous storms? Like Helene was power back within a week. Are we expecting that even sooner than 3 days?
Well, we need to figure out how much power is out. I mean, we just don't know, right? And so we'll see. But I thought, we didn't get hit with Dorian, but it was coming, so we prepared. I thought maybe we had reached 50 with Dorian. We didn't. We reached in the 40s. We did 40,000s for Ian in the 40s. This is the first time we've crossed 50. And so I think that that's good. I think there's a lot of people that are excited about going to work. I know Floridians really appreciate these guys when they get out there. And if you look, the fact that it's going Sarasota across, that's heavy Florida Power and Light territory. Those guys are a well-oiled machine at this. They do a really good job. A lot of their infrastructure handles the storms very well. And so a lot of times when you're talking about power restoration, if you have the people there and you go quick, you can potentially reconnect relatively quickly. If the whole thing is blown out where you have to rebuild it, it takes longer. My sense is that if it's a lot of FPL stuff, their infrastructure probably going to be able to weather a lot of this, so they'll have to do some reconnects, but maybe not a full rebuild. Fort Myers Beach for Hurricane Ian was FPL, and they honestly, they could have gotten the power back on very quickly. It was too dangerous to hook it up because of the homes with the storm surge, but their substations actually did pretty good. So I think it remains to be seen with that. Now, in terms of the search and rescue personnel, I'd like nothing better than to be here tomorrow night telling you we're sending all of it back to the States. I would love that, to say, you know what, we did whatever we needed to do, just like Helene, and then 12, 24 hours later, it was fine, thank you, and you guys go back home. We would love to do that. I'm hoping that we're not going to need them to be long, but it's just going to depend on what the damage is. So we'll see. I mean, look, these storms, it's like how many, what population, how many people, how much infrastructure, and this thing has come up. It kind of went east into Sarasota County. I don't know where they're going to say the landfall was. Maybe Venice, from what I'm looking on the radar. Maybe middle Sarasota County. But if it cuts across from there, there's a lot of rural areas. Whereas if it would have gone into Tampa Bay and rode up I-4, that's like millions and millions of people. I do think north of the storm, there's a lot of precipitation. I think you're going to see inland flooding in central Florida, north central Florida. I think you're going to see storm surge in northeast Florida, places like Daytona Beach, Flagler Beach, St. Johns County. I think you will see that coming on the backside of the storm. So we'll see how all that shakes out, but bottom line is we have the resources amassed. We'll use all that we need. But yes, I hope I can just send a bunch of them home to say, you know, we got the job done.
NWS posted a video earlier today of a dog chained to a fence. They went rescued it. Do you know what's happening with that dog?
I mean, first of all, what kind of an animal would just leave a dog chained to a pole in the middle of a hurricane? I mean, it's just unbelievable that somebody would do that. And so I'm thankful for the FHP folks out of Tampa for rescuing the dog. They did bring it to the vet. The dog has a clean bill of health. And who knows, maybe we'll do some adoption, put the dog up for adoption, and we can have some people in Florida come and compete for it and take it. But, you know, it's just like, I mean, people do a lot of dumb things, but you just see that. And so I hope they find the person who did it, and that person should have the book thrown at them. We've got very good laws in Florida against animal cruelty. You know, these dogs, we've got dogs that are going to be helping in the storm. These police working dogs, they're great canines. So we don't have tolerance for that in Florida. I thought it was outrageous that somebody would do that.
Can you talk about the size of the storm and what people should expect from the wind fields, how wide the eye is, or anything like that as it comes on the shore?
So it's interesting. I think the storm did deteriorate because of the wind shear. I mean, we were here, 24 hours ago, and it was 180 miles an hour. And no one thought it was going to come ashore at that, but I think a lot of people thought it was going to come ashore as a pretty strong 4, and it ended up coming as basically a mid-level 3. Now, it doesn't mean there's not storm surge. It doesn't mean there's not hazards. There is. It's a serious, serious storm. But in terms of some of the damage that we're going to see from wind, there just is a big difference between 140, 150, and 120. We saw it with Hurricane Ian, which was basically a Category 5. I think it may have landed just a tick below. Of course, we saw it with Hurricane Michael, which was a Category 5. As you get into the 120 range, 115 range, still hazardous, can still do a lot of damage, but Florida buildings in particular, new ones, they're going to be able to withstand that for sure. And so I think that likely, I'm cautiously optimistic that with the Florida building code that you're doing. Now, the storm surge is a different story, and we've had storms that, Hurricane Michael was not necessarily known for being massive storm surge, even though it was like a tornado and it obliterated so many structures. And then there have been other storms that have been Cat 3 that produced massive storm surge. So I think it's too early to tell on that, but I think the fact that whether it was the shear or whatever happened, the fact that it did weaken before it made landfall is going to be a benefit to us compared to what we were looking at 24 hours ago. But regardless of the winds from the storm directly, we've already seen probably more tornado watches than I've ever seen. I was talking to people, do you ever remember? No one remembers ever seeing this many tornado warnings that have been done. So that's spun off a lot of tornadoes. And you have them, it's not like, there was Fort Myers, but there was Palm Beach, there was Port St. Lucie. I mean, it was all over the state. So that is a hazard for sure. And I think we're likely to continue to see those throughout tonight.
On the point of the tornadoes, about the incentives for to removal crews to get more of them coming in here.
So as the governor said, he and I had a conversation today with Deanne Criswell. She's actually coming in here tonight at some point in time when weather permits to be with us tomorrow. But I will say she said that we were on the right track. She felt like that was a very good idea to get some type of incentive for individuals to come here. Maybe, again, incentivizing people from maybe west of the Mississippi, west of the Ohio River, so we're not competing against people that are in North Carolina. But again, we talked about some potential opportunities there, and she was going to get her some of her senior directors to come in, and one of them, Robert Pesapane, who is actually over that entire program, is actually traveling from DC tonight as well to actually sit down and have a conversation with us so that we can all get to a situation where we think the best move forward is, we can take that best move forward. However, as the governor also alluded to, there's I think a parallel path, and that we don't do bureaucracy, we don't go in linear paths, we don't throw all of our eggs in one basket. We are talking about reaching out for emergency management assistance compact, EMAC, or mutual aid through other states to start bringing in some other DOT-like, public works-like individuals to help us with mutual aid. To again, we don't know what might happen in the next 10 to 15 days. We want to get some of this debris picked up again. We've shown how government sometimes, unfortunately, usually private sector is better than us, but we've shown them that we can get this stuff done and we can get it done quickly if we cut through the bureaucracy. So we're going to look at the incentive-ish program, and we're going to also look at bringing in mutual aid from other states.
Well,
Okay, I'm going to stop it for just a second. Okay, we'll come back to this. I think Governor DeSantis is not going to go away, at least anytime soon. Let's go over to Port Charlotte again. I'm going to try to open up Port Charlotte here. Hold on a second. Let me do this again. Well, this is really weird. We're going to get this for you, folks. Just stand by, if you will, just for a minute. We're possibly as close as 20 minutes from landfall. We're going to stick with this. I'm trying to get Port Charlotte here for you, right here. Okay. Well, isn't this crazy? For seconds we had it, now it's stopped again. You see the water still coming up over the pier there, over in Inglewood, Port Charlotte area, and Gasparilla Marina. It's still there. Okay, until that makes itself better there, let's go back to Fox News or Fox Weather here.
You know, the thing is there could be another storm that I think what Kevin is doing, I think is smart. I think the administrator will work constructively with him, and I think we'll probably get somewhere that's going to be more efficient and more effective.
Governor, although that has bureaucracy, you have made a decision to ask the legislature to set aside that money for
Okay, you can see the storm about to come ashore here.
Get money and start paying for things in a much quicker fashion. I just, the budget system indicates that so far you've gone through about $250 million, which is about half of what you got. I mean, you guys.
Well, yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, if we exhaust that, I still under emergency, I still can do, and we'll do that. And I would say, you know, this will probably be a 90-10 storm, you think, or
we're going to ask for it.
Yeah, so we'll end up asking for 90-10 for a lot of this stuff. And it just takes a while, but we know we'll get it. I mean, we're still getting reimbursements for some of these past storms, so it's just the way it is. But yeah, we're fine. We have what we do. And look, when you deal with these storms, you got to make a decision. We never want to spend money that is not going to be effective, of course. But I think the question is, you know, are you willing to spend money to be prepared? And when you're fully prepared, you will end up not using some of the things that you've amassed. I mean, who knows? Maybe we instead of having 2.4 million restorations like we did with Helene, maybe we'll have less than that with this. We had 30,000 for Helene Lyman, we have 50,000 now. Was that bad that we had? No, it wasn't. We've had other things staged. We had fuel staged for Helene. We didn't have to use any of it. The gas stations were fine. We have fuel staged now. We may need to do it. And so these are things we look at contingencies, what could potentially happen, plan for the contingencies, and when you plan for it, you do got to spend some money to execute these contracts, but if you don't end up having to do it, I would much rather do that than be in a situation where like we have no gas in the state or we don't have enough people to hook up people's power. And it does cost when we do the mutual aid, when we bring in the linemen, you know, the state is responsible for some of those costs, but the way I view it is, if we can get people back, I mean, I think we had 2 million restored within 72 hours for Hurricane Helene. That gets everyone back on their feet and the state gets moving again. That pays for itself. If you have power out, the standard used to be people be out of power for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. That is not, I think that's bad. I think that hurts the economy. I think that hurts the quality of life. So that's just how you got to do it. Our view is let's just be prepared. That's why we have the fund. And you're going to be better off being prepared ultimately than if you're not willing to do it.
Search and rescue. I know it's a big emphasis for the state. What happens if 911 goes down, God forbid, or cell towers go down, and people can't reach the hotline or 911 to call search and rescue? What should those families and those individuals do?
So the enhanced or next gen 911 system that is in place throughout the country, it's overseen by the Department of Management Services, but at the same time, the mechanics of it is if a county goes down, if a county cannot receive those 911 calls, it's going to roll over to another county. So there is a redundancy that is numerous layers deep that will end up getting that 911 call. When that 911 address pops up on a dispatcher screen, it's actually going to tell them where the home service is at. So it will say, for instance, just say for grins and giggles, it's Punta Gorda. It's answered in Hendry County. It'll show up Punta Gorda. So the people in Hendry County know automatically, okay, I'm actually receiving a call from another area. There's something wrong. They're still going to, all of our dispatchers are trained, our 911 coordinators are trained underneath a Department of Health certificate. So they have all the same standard training throughout the state of Florida. That is a required statute. So they can take that call just as good in Hendry County as they can in, say, Charlotte County. They'll transfer that information. We have redundant systems all across the state. We still have World War II, Cold War era technology that are copper lines that go from every single emergency management agency in this city, or I'm sorry, in this state, to another emergency management. So that'll come in, they'll get the information, they'll pick up that, hotline, call that next county over and say, this is what's going on, and then people will respond to that.
Well, also, I think what you've seen in past is there is the redundancy, but then if someone does need to be if there's 10 feet of storm surge somewhere, you go rescue, and then they'll, our boats, they'll go around and check on people, they'll do all that. So you're going to see a massive effort as soon as it's safe to do so, to check in the areas that were the hardest hit by surge if there's anybody in distress, because someone may not be able to call. Now, even if the 911's working, they may not be able to do that. And you see somebody that's sitting on their roof, someone's going to go and pick them up. I mean, that's just how we roll.
The tornadoes, Director Guthrie mentioned about 125 structures that were destroyed. Does the state have any confirmed fatalities from those tornadoes?
Not yet. I think that there's some injuries. I don't think we can rule out fatalities, but we don't have any confirmed yet.
Do you have a number on how many people are in county shelters or those state supplemental shelters?
So I appreciate the question. And I did a 5:15 call where we were getting some real-time numbers updated. I'm going to say it's probably close to 100,000. We had a lot of counties that their numbers went up exponentially. Earlier today, we put 31,000 out there. For instance, Hillsborough reported a couple of maxed out. Pinellas reported a couple of maxed out. But every county that reported something maxed out still said, even though it was a single shelter, still said they had plenty of capacity in their system. So we're nowhere near capacity that we have, which was well over 220,000 beds as of our earlier briefing today. But I would estimate it's probably around 100,000 and maybe growing.
And I think and it makes sense that it grew a lot today, because the storm wasn't expected to hit until tonight. So you don't need to be there. Like a lot of people, why would you be there on a Tuesday night? They just go Wednesday morning. So we anticipated that would happen. We have capacity. I think when you're talking about storm surge on these barrier islands, a lot of those folks have the wherewithal and the means to be able to go somewhere else, hotel, family, friends. And so they're probably not the prime candidates that are going to go to shelter. I think a shelter is a lot of times some of the elderly, some of the people that may not have as much means, and that's there for them. And I think people have utilized it well. Okay, thanks so much.
All right, we were just listening in there as Governor Ron DeSantis and other Florida officials gave the latest update as we are continuing to track Hurricane Milton, which is a Category 3 storm. I do want to let you know that according to our Fox Forecast Center, Hurricane Milton is currently making landfall right now near Sarasota, Florida. So that official announcement will be made by the National Hurricane Center. But again, according to our Fox Forecast Center, it is making landfall right now. But the latest update, though, from the National Hurricane Center still says that it is close to making landfall along the coast of west central Florida. Life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds, and flooding rains are occurring across portions of central and southwestern Florida. I want to pull up this tweet here for you so you can see exactly what the National Hurricane Center is putting out right now at this 8 p.m. Eastern time update. Again, you can see it on your screen there, close to making landfall. Those life-threatening storm surges, damaging winds, and flooding are occurring along parts of the coast. It is important to note that there are already reports of very damaging flooding that is down there in Collier County in the Naples area. And so we will be able to check in with just a few minutes with the sheriff there in Collier County to talk to him about how the county is going to be preparing to respond to flooding there in the area. Of course, the current cleanup that's going to happen as well after the storm passes. All right, we've been here on Live Now from Fox, bringing you the governor's update in full. We're going to step away for a 2-minute break, and on the other side, we're going to be getting the latest coverage from some of our partner stations as well, including Fox 13 there in Tampa. Stay right here with us on Live Now.
Okay, guys. Hurricane Milton has come ashore now. You're seeing the storm here in Titusville, Florida. Wet streets, some wind here, but Titusville, Florida is on the other side. Okay? Here's Daytona Beach also on the east side. Again, this Daytona Beach, Titusville, Cocoa Beach, Canaveral, and other places over on the east side are getting outer bands of the hurricane. The hurricane is now coming ashore 4 hours earlier than it was supposed to. So we are going to see this hurricane cross Florida sometime in the next 4 to 5 hours. So that's where we're going to leave it at. We're seeing the hurricane literally dissipate now, It's going to probably drop to a Category 2 storm and down to a Category 1 storm before it leaves Florida sometime in the next 4 or 5 hours. If anything else happens, we'll be coming back on the air with you to talk about it as soon as we have the information. Again, Hurricane Milton, a Category 3 storm, came down in strength just before it hit the coastline and is now going over the western coastline around Sarasota, Florida tonight. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Please, folks, if you will, please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this broadcast. Please give us also not just a thumbs up, but give us support as well. We've given you the opportunity to help support us here on this channel. We've given you PayPal here. We've given you also means of communicating with us via our post box at 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina, and zip code is 28655. You can also go over to our PayPal and help support us there. You can also support us at Venmo. We'd appreciate that very much. Folks, have a good night. If anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, have a great night and better tomorrow. I honestly wish that nothing else happens, that everything goes swimmingly for everybody. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side.